Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Learning Tech Talks, where we are exploring the landscape of learning technology while cutting through the fluff to answer the questions you need to build out your digital learning ecosystem. Today, I'm joined with Michael Ioffe. He is the co-founder and CEO of Arist, and we're talking about text messaging education. How are you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, hey, before we get into it, just like last week, we want to have a little bit of fun with it. So we talked about this before. So he's been preparing his answer, but it is Thanksgiving week. So the question of the day is, what is your favorite Thanksgiving food and why?
Yeah, no, excellent question. I think it's probably sweet potato fries. It's kind of an odd choice, but I absolutely love sweet potato fries. And I was once a contestant for the Food Network, and I put like in my audition for the show, I made sweet potato fries, and it worked out well for me. So,
okay, wait, you were on the Food Network as a contestant on what?
I was
on a show?
I was I was asked to be I was asked to audition for the show and was invited to be a contestant. I couldn't make it last minute, which was unfortunate.
Okay.
But in my audition tape, I was like literally cooking sweet potato fries for people on a camera. So yeah, it's one of my favorite dishes.
So this is not your first media appearance then?
Yeah, I guess so.
Are you a cook? Okay, this has nothing to do with learning technology.
Yeah.
I know, very different audiences, but I mean, do you cook, or do you like culinary stuff too?
Oh yeah, I'm a huge cook. Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't just like, hey, I don't know, maybe I'll just be on a cooking show and make sweet potato fries. It's been building for a bit.
Yeah, in high school, I had like three very diverging interests in architecture, learning, and in cooking. So I stuck with the learning piece, but I love cooking as well. So
okay, but you still do cook.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Okay, sweet potato fries. That I was not sweet potatoes, right? I thought that could be an answer, but sweet potato fries, that's not what I would have expected. That's cool. Cool story. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, so before we get into it, one of the things that I think is helpful for people to understand is, so people have seen my posts over the last week, Arist, text messaging education, things like that, but what is Arist?
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Arist is the first text message learning platform. So we help organizations of all kinds and teachers as well create, deploy, and assess text message based courses. And text message courses consist of one 1,200 character text delivered to the user every single day over the course of 5 to 30 days. And there's plenty of use cases. We've seen text message courses be successfully used for everything from sales enablement and compliance training and onboarding to just reinforcing existing video courses and existing in-person courses. So it's a very simple medium, but we found that it's an extremely powerful medium as well.
Okay. So text messaging, yeah. So, but you got your start, right? This wasn't you weren't making sweet potato fries, and then you just thought, you know what, text messaging education. Forget the culinary arts. I'm going to build this platform. So tell me a little bit about that story, how you got started.
So my background is in the nonprofit space. When I was 15, I started a nonprofit organization called Tile.org, which is now the world's largest conversation series. So we have about 450 locations in 50 countries. And one of our most successful locations was in the conflict zone in Yemen. And I couldn't understand, this was probably near the end of my senior year of high school. I couldn't understand why we were getting 400 students to come to our events in Yemen, and we're barely getting 100 to come to our events in New York or Boston. And what I quickly realized is that, in Yemen, the educational system hasn't been up and running for about 4 years. And that's mainly because most of the students there didn't have any access to educational resources. And so I was struggling to understand why they weren't just going on Coursera and watching video courses. I was like, there's this great resource.
There's all this free education out there. Why are people not just absorbing it?
Exactly. And what I started learning was that only 25% of Yemen's population has access to high bandwidth internet necessary for watching a video course. And that was the same for pretty much millions and millions of people who don't have, they may have a phone and they may have access to text messaging, but they don't have access to internet necessary for watching a video course or even downloading a book. And so I started realizing that there was this huge gap in digital education. I ended up working with a few professors from Babson College and USC to design the first text message course. And we were just curious to see if we could package, a semester-long college course into like 30 texts, and whether or not that was even doable. To our surprise, it was very, very doable. We were able to package, the essence, and the key, sort of the key exercises, the key points and concepts and case studies from a college course into 30 days worth of text. And we piloted it. We piloted that 30-day course with about 100 students at Babson, UCLA, and a few high school students in Portland as well. And the results were astounding, right? Even for an audience that wasn't located in a war zone, we had completion rates of over 92%, and satisfaction rates of over 90%. People just loved the course. They loved getting a text every single morning about, and what we found that was most interesting, the text before checking social media in the morning.
Really?
Yeah, which is for a student, for an audience of students, which was our initial pilot audience. That was astounding. So we started realizing that we can reach students around the world who have limited internet access, but this is also a super effective medium for students domestically. And after bumping into some research from Stanford and UPenn about the efficacy of text messages for positive behavior change, we began to realize that text message learning could have a significant effect in corporate training as well, making corporate training significantly more effective, accessible, and the word that we like to use is completely frictionless.
Okay. So yeah, because I have to imagine, right, and we talked about this a little bit backstage before we went live, that there has to be some resistance, or at least a little bit of skepticism around, like, okay, but we have all this training over here, and you're saying we can distribute it via text message. Tell me a little bit more about what you found with that, but how has that gone, or how have you overcome that skepticism?
Sure. Yes. So what happened was we started building up the text message learning platform, and we were initially focused on the impact market, so just working with nonprofits to deliver these courses. And a notable corporate training organization in the U.S. reached out to us and was like, "Hey, like this is perfect for so many of our use cases." And so that's sort of how we entered the corporate training space. And yeah, I mean, what we found is that, to take something like compliance training, for example, right?
Yep.
I'll use sexual harassment training, and sexual harassment training is vital, right? It's important for creating a healthy, coherent
Culture.
Yep. Yeah, in workspace. And corporate, the current solutions just often don't make the cut. Most people don't really pay attention. And there's a lot of content delivered all at once that doesn't meet the needs of learners, right? People don't have the attention span to watch that much content. They can't actually take the time to digest what they've learned. And so by sending like a 1,200 character text with one case study, that takes 5 minutes in the morning. Users can take the time to actually read, digest what they've learned, internalize it, practice it in the workplace, and then the next morning they'll receive their next text so they can move on to the next concept. So that's one of that's just one example of sort of the power of the medium. I think the use cases that people are most interested right now. I think there's some natural skepticism, right, with text message learning. It is a scary thought to condense tons of content into a text and then text that to your employees. But what we found is that reinforcement, course reinforcement, so just delivering 5 to 7 days worth of text after an existing video course or an existing in-person course is a really, really easy way to both test out the medium and the efficacy of the medium without developing a full-on 30-day course and replacing some of your existing course content.
Okay. And one of the questions that came in from Chris Barker, he asked, how big are the texts? Which I think you hit on it. The max size for one of the texts is 1,200 characters, correct?
Sure. Yeah. And I think it's best if I show you as well.
Yeah.
If that works. Yeah. Let me pull it up. Give me just a second. Awesome. All right. Let me know when you guys can see that screen. Perfect. Yeah, so this is what a typical text looks like. So yeah, it's about 1,200 characters. So that's 2 screen lengths. And we've done tons of research over the past year and a half to fine tune exactly how to design an effective text message course.
Okay.
So this is sort of the model that we think is pretty close to perfect. So first off, you can send an image. An image slots in, it's optional, but it slots in right above this text. You have the course today and title. So this is an example of a financial literacy course that a teacher in Canada developed. So the way we see it is you have a brief concept explanation or case study, and you can actually there's a lot that you can do in terms of explaining a concept or case study, especially if you have a learning designer that's really, really good at condensing content. So explain the concept or case study, explain why this concept or case study is relevant, and then ask for a response. So Arist supports multiple choice questions, short answer questions, open-ended questions, and just general exercises. So once somebody, so as a learning designer, you plug in some ask for a response. You can also include a link to more resources. And as a user, every single day, I can, let's say you have a question, a multiple choice question about your company's privacy policy. As a user, I can just text back my answer, and I'm done for the day. One of the really, really interesting things about this medium works via WhatsApp. We're one of the first major learning platforms to fully integrate with WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and SMS. And because we're delivering learning over a medium that's intimate and familiar to the user, response rates are significantly higher, and also the responses are much more authentic. People are much more likely to respond in a real way and deliver learning insights for the learning team that are really, really valuable.
Okay. So yeah, just from a flow standpoint, so that makes sense in terms of, right, you get the text up to 1,200 characters, and it's designed to be engaging in that, right? It's not just, hey, read this thing and you're done. One of the objectives would be to say, okay, here's something, either go do something or here's some information that you should retain from this, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then the other piece, going back to the 1,200 character piece, is, so it's 1,200 characters, but it's not, you don't just get one text. The point of this isn't you're consolidating your entire course into one 1,200 character text, correct?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And is there a length of number of days that you found works? Is it, hey, or is it just based on the amount of content or the volume? How do you determine how many days you end up breaking it into?
Sure. Yes. So the platform is pretty flexible. We can support courses up to 90 days. If you want, you can deliver one text a week over the course of a whole year. But what we found, the perfect course is about 15 to 20 days long, right? So about 2 to 3 weeks. And that's enough to cover most like harassment prevention courses, most compliance or onboarding courses. And it depends on the use case too. We've had a lot of clients interested in using Arist for culture training, right? Okay. So using Arist to conduct like a 10-day course on the values of the company, for example. And we find that 5 to 10 days is probably the perfect size for that.
Okay. So yeah, because I was curious if you've seen, at a certain point, is it just you've been getting the same text for so that people are just like, oh yeah, like I'm done with it. I don't know if there's a drop off point, kind of like in analytics in a video where you can kind of see, people were in and then they just fell off a cliff.
Yeah. I think after 3 weeks, people need a little bit of a break.
Okay. So how do you, with that, because I think this is, one course, I can see, how that fits, but I could also see the risk of if you've got a ton of things, right? Let's say an org says, yeah, we're going to do this, and they go, we're turning everything into text messaging courses. And now people are enrolled and they're getting tons of texts every day from all these different courses. It could start to feel a little overwhelming. Now, it would. If I got, 200 texts from all the compliance training I was in, I would start to ignore that. So how do you balance that? Like, hey, it's a tool, but don't necessarily just say we're turning everything into it. How do you, figure out what that right line is?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. So I'm enrolled in like 7 courses right now. Okay. So I'm feeling
You're feeling the pain of like, okay, how many of these texts can I really read?
Right. It actually, it hasn't been too bad. I in the morning I slot off like 7 to 10 minutes to just read through my texts and do my exercises. So it's not terrible. But yeah, I think we encourage companies to set an upper limit for how many courses users will be taking at a given time. We think 4 or 5 is sort of the upper limit. And typically when we work with companies, we help them evaluate where this will be the most impactful use case.
Okay.
Right. And where this can actually accelerate some sort of learning outcome.
Okay.
One example is that, for onboarding, there's not a lot that can replace, right, in-person onboarding experience. But Arist can help augment that.
Augment
right?
it.
And that's really where we see ourselves starting off within an organization, right? And learning augmentation.
Yeah. Well, and I think, right, in our industry, I think that's a risk that I've been in the trenches and have seen gone, where you jump on one and you try and replace things, and all you do is move one box from left to right, instead of saying, hey, what components of this do we deconstruct and say, okay, let's make this component text message education or e-learning, but then let's preserve this over here. So one question that came through from Rowena Hennigan was, she said, so yeah, it's bite-sized learning. I think I won't use the term micro learning because that one just, I'm like, ugh. But it's bite size or snackables. That's the word I use. So I call them snackables, right? It's a learning snack. And but can you see a summary of the total text somewhere? And I think I know the answer, just how it's kind of doing a conversation thread. But is that how you would then see, okay, maybe this is today's lesson or today's snackable, but if I want to look back to what I learned 2 days ago, how would you go about doing that?
Sure thing. Yeah. So the way we see it right now is it's a conversation thread. So if you want to go back a few days, you just scroll up, and all the days are right there. But what we're also offering is, for students to request it, they can just shoot us a text, because our support team also reads a lot of text post course. And then occasionally we can offer the full PDF of the course to the users, so they have it for reference. But usually, you just scroll up and all of your content is right there.
Okay, so it's keeping it in a conversation thread. You're not getting a new message from a new number every day. It's a thread that's then kind of building.
Exactly. And what's great is that, what we often ask is users will just mark their the contact of the number of the course. So each course has its own unique number, and users will just mark the contact as, like, here's my onboarding course, or here's my compliance course.
If they accidentally delete the thread, can they get it resent to them?
Yes. Yeah, without a doubt.
You can. Yeah. Okay. That's actually that's a good question, right? Because I'm like, I've done that, where you're like, delete. Oh no, the whole thread's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of interactivity, Teresa, and actually a couple of people have asked this, in terms of, questioning, is there interactivity between, so they get this question, can they ask questions back, or is it, how does that work? What type of interactivity is there?
Sure thing. Yeah. So I guess there's sort of, two potential questions there. The first one is can students, text back? And yes, students can text back, and as learning designer or the professor, you can see student responses.
Okay, you can see responses.
Yep. Yeah. So you can see all responses. We give you an analytics dashboard, where you can see user progress. You can see what users are responding to each day and to each question. We support that on the back end. We're in the long run, over the next few months, we're building in a feature where, as the professor, you can, in the platform, text back, and then the user will automatically receive it as a text. For now, that's technically pretty difficult. For now, if the user has a question, you can just email them, and we give you the email as well. And then with regards to automatic feedback for students when in the interactivity. So one example is a multiple choice question, right? So if a student replies B and the answer is A, the system will automatically tell the user, hey, that the answer is, you got the answer wrong. Here's what it actually is. And then we're relaunching the platform on January 10th, and we're launching a lot of detailed feedback tools. So you'll be able to say, hey, you got the answer wrong. Here's what the right answer was, and here is why. And so you can put in like a few paragraphs worth of explanation as well.
Okay. So right now, in terms of, and you actually answered 2 questions that have come in, so that's extremely helpful in terms of right now, in terms of the feedback. They can ask a question, you can see it, you can't in the tool respond back to someone, but you can get in touch with them if they have a question or they want to go further. That's on the roadmap, where it is. And then in terms of the feedback on questions. There is some question level feedback that they can get in real time, and that's going to be more robust in 2020. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. January 10th is when we plan
January
to
10th. Yeah, all right. We're holding you to it. January 10th.
Exactly.
Always, I'm telling you, in this industry, you got to be very careful about saying this is the day, because people will hold you to it. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Our engineer is probably freaking out, but
yeah, he's like, did you just say that live in front of everybody?
That's
okay.
Awesome.
So in terms of the platforms, because this is another one, and it came up and we answered it, but I think it's also an important thing. So it's text messaging, but you're also integrated right now with Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. So still kind of that messenger concept, but again, kind of the other apps. Are there other apps that you're also looking at exploring in terms of, I know I have a lot of folks that I've worked with in the China region who use WeChat. I mean, there's other apps that people are, Slack, things like that. Are you exploring other platforms, or are you more focused on innovating with what the capabilities of the tool are?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I think within the next, our goal is to give the end user. So if I'm an employee and I sign up for like an onboarding course or a sales enablement course, I pick the time I receive my daily texts and I pick my platform, right?
Okay.
And so our goal is to give the employee as much flexibility as possible. So we're building in WeChat integration and Slack integration, hopefully in Q1 of 2020. Okay. And yeah, we think, especially for communicating with employees and teams in China, we think that's going to be really, really important.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, so that is on our road.
Okay. And then another question for you on this is, and you talked briefly just now about it in terms of that. So as an end user, right, as in my experience, how am I controlling, or what control do I have of when I get these texts, and do I have that ability? Is it just an automated thing? And you hit on it, but can you go a little deeper?
Sure thing. Yes. So when I sign up for a course, I can pick the daily time I receive my texts and the messaging platform. So if I prefer WhatsApp, or for example, if I'm in Latin America and don't use SMS as much, I can pick my platform. And at any point, the user can go and change their daily time, right? So for example, if I was in New York and just moved to Los Angeles, I can change my time to make it a little bit later, and then I can also pause my course at any time. By texting stop, and then when I start it up again, I text start. So it's pretty seamless. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of, and I'm curious, well, so before we go into this, one other thing we talked about briefly, and I think it's an important note to have, because this is a growing market, is we're talking about it mainly from like an enterprise standpoint. So yeah, if you have an enterprise, and we'll dig deeper into that, how that might integrate into the ecosystem. But one of the other things that, as I was doing some research on the platform, is really, as an individual, potentially this is the big thing now, right? People are creating courses and they're trying to sell their courses and things like that. As an individual, that's another potential opportunity or use case for it, not just corporate L&D, correct?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think that the beautiful thing about the Arist platform is that we can spin up an Arist classroom for anybody instantly. So we're really lucky to work with at this point dozens of professors and teachers around the world who are creating their courses on Arist, or who are creating supplements to their courses on Arist. We think that an Arist course may slot in between like a free webinar that somebody does and like a really comprehensive $1,000 course, and it's a way to get somebody integrated into your learning ecosystem, and getting them started on what you're teaching without having them sit down for 50 hours and learn in a really comprehensive manner.
Okay. Is anybody using this as for marketing? I'm just curious, like if people are saying like, hey, as a marketing tool for our stuff, we'll offer courses, because people do it all the time. They offer webinars, things like exactly that. Is that, and again, this has nothing to do with corporate learning. I'm just curious.
Yeah. That's actually, it's funny. So no,
I may have just given you another idea.
Yeah. No, it's an excellent idea. So no one has used it for marketing, with our express permission, or with an express discussion yet. We did have one user who started using the platform for some other purpose, just teaching regular courses, and then I think they ended up meeting a marketing person from the city that they lived in, and ended up designing a marketing course for their city.
Wow.
So now you can go and take, like a 5-day course on the city, which I'm not going to name, that walks you through like all of the sites and the history of the city. It's actually, I took the course. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
So we have seen it used for marketing. I think not in the way that we initially expected.
You're like, no, we weren't thinking that, but hey,
It's awesome.
whatever
Yeah,
works, right? Yeah.
There's tons of use cases for the platform, and I think
Okay.
one of the things that we've struggled with a little bit is, narrowing down our focus, because you can literally use this for anything. So.
Yeah, well, I think, right. And I think that's an important piece. And it's similar if you're thinking about this from a corporate learning standpoint. It's easy to be like, hey, we could use this for this and this and this, instead of saying, hey, let's figure out a use case. Let's see it through. Let's figure out, what worked, what didn't work before we just go gangbusters and try a whole bunch of stuff. So it's interesting that you're dealing with the same thing on the platform side that I think oftentimes we deal with on the practitioner side. So with that, as we go a little bit further into it, and I am curious. Well, so let me ask this: so whether it's individual user or corporation, how does the licensing? I'm curious how the licensing works in terms of, is it a consumer of content per consumer per user? Is it a author structure? How does that work? And we don't have to get into numbers, but in terms of how does that work if somebody's trying to think through, okay, I've got this big of an audience, am I thinking about it, how many creators, what does that look like?
Sure thing. Yeah. So our goal is to make it as simple as possible. So we've broken it up into, a model for companies and a model for course publishers. Okay. So for companies, we charge $3 per user per month.
Okay.
And it's, I guess I should go into numbers, but it's just, it's a pretty simple model. And for that, you get unlimited access to the Arist platform. So that means that your course creators can create unlimited courses, your employees can take unlimited courses. So it's pretty seamless. And then on the course publisher side, we just charge a flat fee every single time somebody takes a course. And what's great is that as a course creator, I can offer that course for free as a supplement to my existing courses, or I can offer that course for like, a few $100 if I want. So.
Okay. So on the end user side, it's per consumption basically by a learner. If it's on the end user side, on the inside, it's how many, people are you creating it for?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Now let's go a little bit into this, and again, we will dive into the platform a little bit more. But I like to talk about, and we talked about this briefly, some of the challenges or things that maybe somebody's hearing this going, okay, this is kind of interesting. It's different. What kind of hurdles, or not necessarily even hurdles, but things should an L&D org prepare for if they're looking at making this transition or even trying it?
Right. Yes. So I think one of the biggest hurdles that both we face in that L&D org space is the natural skepticism that people have towards text message learning. I think we find that as soon as somebody tries a course, they're like, "Oh, I get it. This is awesome," and they're not worried about it anymore. But I think when users are getting started with it, being extremely clear and communicating very clearly about this is what you're going to receive, right? This is the information that we're collecting. So one example I'll give is that, one of our clients recently ran an ethics course, and users were replying, because it's such an intimate medium, users were replying very, very authentically and providing really, really meaningful and important case studies of positive and negative ethical behavior at the company. And this was data that they just had never been able to gather in a survey.
Interesting.
Yeah, which was really fascinating. But the thing is that the organization wasn't great, and this was also something that we learned. We needed to be very, very explicit about who was seeing that information, right? So all of that data was anonymous, but I think because we didn't explicitly say that this data and all of your responses will be anonymous, some users were replied and then got scared or were hesitant to reply.
Interesting.
So being very, very clear about who's seeing the user responses, whether or not this is going to count for some sort of course credit, whether or not it's going to count for a certification of some kind, and then just encouraging users to try it out. One of the fascinating things is we initially assumed that this was going to be a great fit for a millennial audience, which it is. Millennials absolutely love this. But one thing that we didn't expect is the satisfaction rates for text message learning for people over 55 are actually higher than satisfaction rates for people under 35.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that doesn't surprise me, actually, just because of
that's awesome.
No, because again, I think the intuitive nature of text messaging is it's a familiar. There's not a whole new experience or platform or technology that you have to learn to be able to do it. So it's like, well, I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that versus, oh, great, now I have this new app and I have to figure out, what's in this app and when do I go to this app and things like that. So it's interesting you found that, but that actually, that doesn't surprise me. So
yeah. That's awesome. That's good to hear. But it's fascinating because there is that initial hesitation where it's like, like will this work for a 55 and over audience? And so it was great to see the data validate that it does. But I think clear communication with text message learning and being willing to take a risk and try it out. I think is both of those are really, really important things.
Okay. So 2 questions to follow up, as we go into this, and then I think it'll make sense to jump into the platform because I want to talk about from an instructional design or a design standpoint, what that looks like. But 2 of them that come to mind is as I think about, how this fits into the ecosystem piece of it, right? Because it's another tool. That if you're looking at it, you're thinking, okay, how do we integrate this in? What does that look like? Let's say an org has an LMS or an LXP already that's housing their content. How does Arist then fit in or integrate in a way that doesn't feel like, okay, now we have this other completely separate, disconnected thing? Or how are other orgs dealing with that?
Sure thing. Yeah. So I guess a few important things to note. We do integrate with single sign-on.
Okay.
Employees, for example, don't have to create a brand new account on Arist. So that makes it a lot easier from the user experience point of view. And then we are working to integrate with as many learning management systems as possible.
Okay.
And our goal is to make it really seamless. So essentially, an Arist course will show up just like any other course in a learning management system, or you can link to it at the end of a video course if you're doing course reinforcement, for example. And then the user just clicks through. They're automatically taken to the course sign-up page. Because of federal privacy laws, the phone verification piece or the account verification piece does have to still go through us, but that takes 20 to 30 seconds. And then the user clicks sign up, and then they're all set. And our goal is also to feed all of the data from the back end back into the LMS.
Okay, so that's not currently there, but that's coming.
We're working on it. Yeah, and already, we've had, it's not an official LMS integration, but we've had people just create courses that by themselves link out to the Arist platform, in their LMS. And so it's not a formal integration, but it works and it's pretty seamless. So
yeah, well, and as I was thinking about it in terms of just to kind of paint the picture of how I see it, at least in current state, I think we've talked about what the roadmap looks like, and I think you've got. Definitely there will be some cool things you'll be able to do with it, but for now I see it as almost a way you kind of can link it. I mean, in pretty much any system now you can kind of point people to something. So if it's a single sign-on, it's, hey, here's part of your learning path. One of your objects is this Arist component. You link out, you take care of it. Now, in terms of, and that gets to my other question, is in terms of the compliance piece. If people were using this for compliance training and things like that, a lot of times their LMS is a validated system, or it's a system of record. How are you working with that data then to make sure that it is stored somewhere? So if you get audited and somebody comes in and says, hey, did you do your annual compliance training, or in healthcare Sunshine Act training, something like that you can say, yeah, and here's the records?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. I may not have the technical clearance to answer that to the best of my ability.
That's fine.
So, But to be completely honest with you, but what I do know is we use state-of-the-art data storage systems. So we run on Amazon and MongoDB. So so on the back end, we're designed to both first off ensure that data is extremely secure. So we have state-of-the-art security. And then our goal is also to ensure that companies have access to the data that they need to demonstrate compliance at any point in time. That's one of the reasons why we go through the phone verification piece, right? So when you sign up for a course, you have to verify your phone or you have to verify your Facebook account. And also one concern that I forgot to mention, I think, to answer your previous question, one of the biggest concerns that people initially have with text message learning is privacy, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're putting in your phone, when you're putting
it may
in
not be
your
a company phone.
It may not be a company phone. Yeah. What's really interesting is that because users opt in, and what we do is we encrypt the user's phone numbers, so neither we as the platform or the company as the user of the platform can see it. We're able to be fully compliant with federal privacy laws while also letting employees use their own personal phones.
Okay.
Which makes it really, really seamless for both the company and the user.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's right. In terms of some of the skepticism, I see this just with a lot of learning technologies,
right?
Is the skepticism around who can see my information and what are they doing with it? And a personal phone number is obviously something that for many, are you going to spam me? Am I going to start getting phone calls and things like that? So you're saying that's not the case.
Yeah, that's probably the piece of data that we protect the most. So
okay. Okay. One other question that came in from Needy is, in terms of what can come through. So text messaging, obviously text is a big part of it. One of the other questions was, can you do pictures, videos? Like what other type of media can you do?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, so you can include images, GIFs. We're working to include short videos and files as well. Already, you can link to a file in the text. You can add in hyperlinks, and then in the long run, our goal is to also include audio files. So there's a lot that you can do in terms of making the text richer.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about it, I feel like this is a way underutilized thing, right? With the image thing, because there's other platforms I've seen and other tools I've seen that, they are more image focused. The animated GIF is to me one of the most underutilized
I can agree
things
more.
where it's like you can actually do video through images. You just have to know how to use other tools to be like, oh, well, we'll just make, again, we're going to pick that micro moment and turn it into an animated GIF. So I feel like that's, and I don't know, some people say GIF, GIF. What do you call it?
I think I grew up saying GIF. I think or GIF. I also between the two as well. So it's
for people who are watching, I'm curious. You just type in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let us know. But
yeah, well, no, because it just came to mind to me that it's one of those. I've had other instances where that's, people say, oh, well, we want to focus on the image. Like you can make an image actually pretty dynamic with some pretty cool stuff. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the design thing, because to me, having grown up in instructional design, building content, right, this is a shift to go from what we've been taught, which is as robust and big and verbose as we can make it, as comprehensive as we can make it. 1,200 characters, per 10. Again, you can do it over day, but that's right. That's a different design. So talk to me a little bit about, how are people handling that?
Yeah. No, what we found is that, condensing lots of content into text message format requires sometimes a completely different skill set than what most learning designers are used to. It's and it's something that we try to help, and that we do help every single learning designer and company that we work with learn. So we have tons of free guides, case studies, workshops, etc. But the thing is that I'll give you one example. We just worked with a company to condense a 3-hour video course that they had into a series of texts. And we were able to convert that 3-hour video course into 6 texts with pretty much no loss of content. In fact, we were able to add in some content into the text, and mainly because we were just boiling it down to like the main points, the main case studies, and not adding unnecessary fluff. And we find that employees are busy, right? And for fast-moving workplaces, every hour counts, and every hour that a user spends learning something that they can learn in a faster and more efficient manner is an hour that they could be being more productive and working. And so that's why we firmly believe that condensing information and being very, very concise and delivering learning insights in a tightly packaged manner is really, really important. And it's crazy. Okay. It's crazy what you can condense. On our website, that we currently offer a 5-day trial course in architectural history, which condenses, like the first month of a Wellesley architectural history course into 5 texts. Right, huh. And it's great. I mean, it's really, really comprehensive. And I think we've, in learning, I've grown up with lots of complex learning experiences that don't necessarily generate any actual learning, and don't generate, retention and engagement. This is a way of ensuring that, like, here's this little block, and you will, read and digest and understand this block as best as you possibly can.
Okay. Well, and on that note, I think this is an important exercise, and I don't think, for people watching, if you're in learning and instructional design, I don't think that's a skill that you need to wait for text messaging education to figure out. Because I know early in my career, I had a mentor who, he did an exercise, and I actually still do this, right, with my teams. It's like, this is how we need to do it, is I would write content and he would go cut it in half. Yeah. I'm like, what? And then I would do it and he'd go cut it in half again. And he made me do that so that I was forced to just think about, how can I say this more simply, more concisely? And it was painful. Like, at first, you're like, but yeah. I put all this time into writing all this beautiful content, and now you're telling me cut half of it out. But it was amazing, like you said, how you can. I mean, so much of what we do, it's prepositional phrases, it's sentences that aren't really relevant. It's, things like that. How about in terms of conversation? I'm interested in if you've seen a difference, or if this is something that you found works better. But with text messaging, when you think about the primary use case for text messaging, it's a conversation between two people. From a stylistic standpoint, I think sometimes when we design content in our industry, we do it very stuffy and formal. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to blah, blah. And then, right, this is when we get into these verbose things. Is that also something that you find has an impact, is the style of writing?
Without a doubt. Yeah. So one thing that we realized very, very early on is that tone matters a lot. Okay. So yeah, if you read a text message course in boardroom style language, where it just sounds sort of robotic, people are a lot less likely to engage. The most effective text message courses that we've seen are extremely personal, right? The learning designer even sometimes uses their own name and says, like, hey, this is Kyla, okay. Welcome to this course, and just offers, it sounds like it's coming from a human, which we think is generally important, right? In learning, right? It should sound like it's coming from a human. One interesting example is we just released a GDPR course as a sample. We wanted to see how exciting we could make it GDPR compliance, because it is.
That is a very exciting topic.
Exactly.
By the way. Let me just tell you, that is like, stay up,
thrilling,
pull an all-nighter on that.
Yeah, and what was awesome is that the course, the course designer who designed this like 15-day GDPR course, the texts were so funny and so engaging, and made it seem so relevant. And just the tone of it was awesome. Like, you felt like you were texting like a really cool friend. And that made the difference. That made the course really, really easy to take. It made it really, really engaging. And it felt personal and real. And so we find that tone matters a lot.
Okay. I suspected, but that's where, I was curious if you've actually seen some of that. So do you have the platform? Can we pull it up? And then I'm sure I'll have some other questions as we go through it, but we can talk a little bit about, what does this thing look like? How does it work? All right, let me pull it into the stream here. Okay, so this is on the administrative side, correct? This is not the end user. Okay.
Right.
So actually, can you pull up going into a course? Because I'm just curious, like creating a new course, or if you want to pull up an existing one, I'd love to just see what that looks like.
Sure. So if it helps, I can go through it from the end user's side really quickly. Yeah. And then, okay, awesome. So this is the architectural history course that I briefly talked about. Signing up is pretty easy. So you just click enroll and activate. If I'm already, my phone number is already verified, but if it wasn't, I just verify my phone number quickly. click text message. Let's say I want to get it at 9:30 a.m. Click start, and I'm all set. And now I can change my time, drop out. So I'm going to drop out of this course.
You don't need more texts. You've got
Yeah,
7 already.
exactly. I'm already fully loaded. So that it's really, really easy from a user experience point of view. This is the dashboard. This is where course creation lives. And we've sort of broken it down into 5 pieces. So we have writers, publishers who can edit and publish courses, distributors, so you can distribute courses, and analysts. This is where all of your data lives, and then the admin stuff. Do you want me to walk through like the process of just building a course, or do you want me to jump into an existing one?
Why don't we go into one? Because I think sometimes it's easier to see something that exists versus, okay, we're creating it from scratch, and now it's like, lorem ipsum, things like that.
Awesome. All right, let's go through the GDPR course actually that I just talked about. So this is the really, really exciting course that I mentioned. All right, let's check out a day.
You can just pick one of the. So in terms of, before you click into it, right? So I'm looking at it up top. I mean, in terms of a creation standpoint, it's pretty simplistic from what I'm seeing, right? I mean, you're naming it, you're giving it a brief description, an image. There's not, programming triggers and variables or anything like that. It's just some basic data. And then if you scroll down, it looks like then you're just picking your day, right? You're saying, okay, how many days? And then we go into the day, I'm assuming. Yes.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, it's super simple. Our goal is to make it as easy as possible to create a course. One of the really cool things about this is that even after a course is published, you can update information here, right? So let's say the enforcement, laws
changes.
Yeah, exactly. You can just go in, update it, and it takes 30 seconds. Versus
what if somebody's enrolled in it? If somebody's already enrolled in it, is it pushing those? If they haven't hit that day yet, will they get the updated content?
Yep, they will.
Okay.
Yeah, which is awesome, because that means that your content can stay up to date without having to like reshoot a whole video.
Right.
So let's go through.
Well, and text is much easier to update than video, complex e-learning, things like that.
Exactly. So this is a day on enforcement. We can. I'm with you. I think GIFs are an extremely underutilized learning tool, and also for millennial audiences, it's like the absolute best way to get them engaged. And this just goes through.
Okay.
Here's one example of the tone. Right, there are major fines for organizations that break the rules, and we mean major fines.
Yeah.
It's
very personal, right? It's like it's the way you would talk to a human being. Like you said, I feel like sometimes we write like robots, and then we wonder why people aren't, necessarily connecting in a meaningful way.
Right. Exactly. And this just speaks to people, in the language that we use on an everyday basis. And so,
the assessment piece, I see. So if you're going to add a question, you do that on a day-by-day basis, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So in this, and again, it depends on, we give the learning designer flexibility to do it how they want. So occasionally some learning designers like having no assessments until like day 7, right? And then they just have them at like 10 multiple choice questions on day 7, sort of like a quiz. So it's sort of up to you. This course, because it's a demo course, we don't have assessments built in.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah,
can you click on add? I'm just curious though.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you can hyperlink to things too. If you put a link in there, you can link people out to something.
Yeah, automatically hyperlinks everything. Let's say we want to make a open-ended question. What's your favorite part about GDPR? And then we
so many things. That's a tough question. There's so many things that I just love about it.
Right. That's the usual response we get.
I'm sure that's what everybody says.
Exactly.
While you're doing that, because I'm just kind of thinking in real time here as we do. So open-ended, right? Because this is one of the things I think can be challenging, or not challenging, but is a limitation. Is a lot of times we think of assessment just as knowledge retention, right? So multiple choice, hey, here's a thing like that. Now with an open-ended, you could have a more action-oriented where you could direct somebody. I mean, again, you'd have to maybe think about it a little differently, but that could almost be more of a call to action than a question and asking for feedback or response, correct? Because that what they respond comes back to you, yes?
Correct, correct. Yeah. So one example is, in the financial literacy course that I showed earlier, users are prompted to have a money book where they they write down all of their transactions and reflect on their experiences. And in that case, the open-ended question is sort of a prompt for action.
Okay.
We love the learning model of learn a little bit, use it in real life and act on it, and then reflect on it. So
okay. So one question, and this may be something. So I'm seeing this, and this may not be Arist because I actually have noticed this more and more in my stuff. In the content, you've got the little smiley face thing. Do you have Grammarly?
I do have Grammarly. Yep.
Okay, because I've noticed more. I get feedback on like, hey, you wrote that too stern or too firm. Lighten it up and make it warm and fuzzy. And your guy's giving a little smiley face.
Oh,
So I'm
no way.
thinking,
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, friendly.
yeah,
Yeah,
see,
that's awesome.
I've
That's so
actually,
cool.
right, and now we aren't talking about Grammarly on here, but I've actually noticed that that's been helpful for me when I'm writing stuff. It actually tells me like, it's a little too stern or whatever. So there you go. Okay,
That's awesome. That's
completely
so cool.
separate.
Yeah, no, but actually,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
that's very cool. I think it'd be really interesting to formally integrate Grammarly as well. That's a great idea.
Now we're seeing it, but I mean, I think that type of thing, because one of the questions Chris Barker asked is, right, does Arist help, or do you have the capability to help an organization kind of do that contextualizing and cutting down the content, or is that on the organization to kind of navigate through? And I'm just curious your take on that.
Yeah, without a doubt. So we actually have a whole content team, and so
Okay.
there's sort of three ways that you could do it, right? The first one is we train your team or offer a workshop, and then just offer like edits here and there when needed. Option two is we also have a lot of guides and case studies that we can send along, and then option three is we'll very often have learning teams send us just wholesale content, right? So send us like 10 hours of video or send us a ton of PowerPoints, and then we'll condense that information for them into text message format. So we can do all of that for the organization too.
Okay. But to be clear, though, that's not necessary, right? That's a separate service or an add-on to just the platform, or is that just like, yeah, we'll do that?
Yeah, okay. It is pretty labor intensive. So
Make sure we want to be clear on that, since
right.
yeah. Michael said you would do all of our content consolidation for free.
For free, yeah. That's
you'd be in big trouble right now.
yeah, that's true. That's a great point. It is an extra service, but it does, yeah. That is one option. Our goal, however, is maybe over the course of the deployments over the course of the first year, eventually get to the point the learning team is fully versed in designing text message courses. So oftentimes we see it, we'll design the first few and we'll condense the first few, and then eventually we'll train the team and
basically teaching them how to fish.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So that is a service that if somebody says, hey, this is something we need help with, we're looking at the platform to, yes, you can get the platform, but you also have the capacity and capability to help an organization kind of on that journey, with the ultimate goal that they aren't, coming back to you. I mean, from the platform standpoint, it's not like, oh, we made a course, we need you to come make some edits to it. This is pretty simple in terms of making updates.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And our, we've gotten pretty good at really efficiently designing text message courses too. So, our turnaround time is like 2 to 5 days. Sometimes it's like even less. And I mean, I think that speaks to one of what we find is the most compelling aspect of text message learning, right? Is that you can design a course in 2 hours, right? From scratch versus, sometimes we've heard people spend 50 plus hours designing video courses. So it is a really efficient medium, both from the learning designer's perspective and from the end user's perspective.
Okay. That brings up a question actually that you say, and I'm interested what your experience has been, because I think there is a little bit of one of the challenges with some of these tools that make it so easy to design content is some of the lost kind of need for, not necessarily need, but right, there is something to be said about somebody with experience and background in instructional design looking at, okay, hey, here is how we architect this. And I've seen this with simple tools in the past where it's just like, well, great, we can make anybody an author and they can create a course, and they just throw it together and you go, well, I mean, you made something. it's something, but, so how do you balance that where, you're not just kind of letting it turn into the wild, wild west where people are just making whatever, because then you run the risk of spam, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think right now the way we're approaching that is by offering really detailed course guides, course creation guides, and examples and case studies. We've actually found, we've had students create courses and have compared them with courses made by learning designers. And they're actually, obviously the courses made by learning designers have a bit more nuance and are a bit more complex and a bit more effective. But it's a lot, the level of quality is a lot closer than you think, especially because I think when you get to the 1200 character range, that's really forcing the user to condense things very effectively.
Right. So, whether you're an instructional designer or not, right, that's pushing anybody to really think carefully about, what are you putting in there?
Exactly. Yeah, and there's, it also limits spam, so you're not getting like huge text.
Right. Okay. But there's that guideline of don't make a 6-month course,
yeah, exactly.
150-day course, because you go, well, we have to get all 300 PowerPoint slides into here, so we'll go out, half a year to spread it out.
Right. Yeah, no, we don't recommend that. And and the great thing is that if I'm the end user, if I'm realizing that a course is taking too long or if it's not super interesting, then I can just text stop and I'm all set. So that also works for spam prevention.
Okay. There was one other thing that I was thinking about that I was going to ask you, and now I'm not sure if I can remember what it was, but that's okay. So yeah, I mean, I think this has been great, Michael. I appreciate, I remember when we first talked, back, I think it was last September or something like that, when we first started talking about, I think it's just, sometimes I feel like so many people, and I wrote about this in the post, right? So many people are pursuing the quickest or the latest and stuff. And sometimes it's the simplicity of things that are in place that actually have the biggest impact. So I think that was what really grabbed me about the uniqueness of it. And it doesn't hurt that you've got a pretty compelling story of, I think one of the things that a lot of times we can do a better job of focusing on is what problem is this tool designed to solve? And really, I mean, you designed it around a problem that you saw when you were doing what you do. So
yeah. No,
awesome.
we're really excited about it. And thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. For those of you watching, if you are interested in learning more about Arist, whether for your organization or just individually, I will put a link in the post and all the subsequent posts so that you can, get in touch, things like that, or reach out to me directly. So thanks for being here, Michael. Again, everybody watching, like, share, comment, let people know about the show. The goal of the show is really not necessarily to push a product, but to help you better understand what these technologies are, how they work, and how really you can use them together to build an awesome learning and development organization. So thanks for being here, everybody. Oh, we have one last thing before I go. For those of you tuning in, starting next week, this is an important note, we won't be on Tuesdays anymore. I'm moving to Friday. So next Tuesday, there won't be a show, but I'll put plenty of posts out there so people know. But we're moving to Fridays, so you'll have a nice Friday morning show to tune into. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, Michael. And we will see you all next week. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much.
See ya.